Today. So you talked a little bit about immigration, and in the past, you've talked about how white Australians, Americans, Europeans are being replaced by non-white immigrants in what is often referred to as the Great Replacement theory. This is the same.
Have I said that whites are being replaced?
Well,
I don't think I said that.
Well, it's been mentioned on your show 4,000 times, and
really, when did I say that?
on your
I said
show,
whites are being replaced.
You have said that before.
Really?
Yeah.
I would challenge you to cite that because I'm pretty sure I haven't said that. I said native-born Americans are being replaced, including blacks.
Native-born Americans.
Native-born Americans. And Americans who, like black Americans, have been African Americans, have been in the United States for, in many cases, their families over 400 years, and their concerns are every.
I have to be careful. I have to keep stopping it. Just be clear. Tucker's never said white. And I'm not mad at anybody who does say white, but Tucker has not said white. And he's also a man who's been doing journalism for decades. So he's very hypervigilant about the words he uses. You can't come and tell him he said something he didn't say. I know exactly. He's like, no. In his mind, he's like, I made sure not to say it. And I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. I'm just telling you, you just can't walk up to somebody and say, you said X, Y, Z.
Bit as real and valid and alive to me as the concerns of white people whose families have been there 400 years. So I've never said that whites are being replaced. Not one time. And you can't cite it.
Untrue.
So we just met, but when our relationship starts with a lie, it makes it tough to be friends. So
you've been lying
let's
about
pull that back. I'm happy to explain what I do think.
So,
you actually can't say it because I didn't say it, and I don't believe it. And I'm telling you that to your face. So why don't you just accept me at face value? My concern is that the people who are born in the country are the main responsibility of its leaders. And as noted earlier, when those leaders shift their concern from the people whose responsibility it is to take care of to people around the world to put their priorities above that of their own citizens, that's immoral. And they are being replaced in my country, people who are born in the United States. And the birth rate tells the whole story. They are not at replacement rate. And so the U.S. population is growing because we're importing people from other countries. And my view is that happy people have children, and a functioning economy allows them to do that. And we don't have that. And so you need to fix the economy and fix the culture and make it so that people who want to have kids can. You don't just go for the quick sugar fix of importing new people. Like, that's my position. And if you think that's racist, that's your problem.
I never called you a racist.
But of course you are suggesting. And I must say, one of the reasons people don't like.
I have to stop it is because they will shut down the live. It's so annoying that they'll do that. And just like I said, like, it's not cool. Like, it's always some label. Like, who are you to tell the man what he said and didn't say? And as a matter of fact, when he said I didn't say it, she said that's a lie.
People like you in the media is that you never say exactly what you mean. Your slurs are all by implication. And you're about to tell me the Great Replacement theory is racist or anti-Semitic, whatever. I've said what I've said to you right now, like 100 times in public. I hope to, if I live long enough, say it 100 more times. I think it's completely honest and real, not racist or scary. It's factually true. It's not a theory. It's a fact. And the whole point of your question was to be like, you're a scary racist.
Well, I haven't.
And my response is, no, I'm not. Okay, well, how about no more lying in your questions, and then I'll answer it.
Okay. Well, this is the same theory, or as you say, idea, that has inspired the New York Buffalo shooting, where 11 Black Americans were killed.
You know what I mean?
Americans were killed. Like, it's also inspired.
It's not. First of all,
it's inspired one of the worst Australian guns.
How do they get
time
people this stupid in the media? I guess it doesn't pay well. Look, I'm sorry. I've lived among people like you for too long, and I don't mean to call you stupid. Maybe you're just pretending to be, but I'm totally against violence. I'm totally against the war in Ukraine, for example, which doubtless you support. And like all dutiful liberals, support more carnage. I don't. I hate mass shootings, actually. Nothing I said. What does it mean to inspire something? My views are not bigoted against any group. They're honest. They're factual. That's not hate. That's reality. And my views derive from my deep concern for Americans, actually. Americans aren't having kids because they can't afford to. And nobody in charge cares. And so that's my position. That doesn't inspire mass shootings. How dare you try to tie me to some lunatic who murdered people? How dare you, actually?
Good for him. And like, yeah, it's like that doesn't inspire mass. Right. Like, wait a minute. So it's like y'all know, anybody who watches any of the episodes on this channel, like on any of my channels, who's ever heard me talk, who's ever heard me do anything that I put my face or name to, I speak with total conviction of what I know to be true, with values, right? So number one, it is not wrong to say that you're worried about your Americans first. It is also not wrong for a white person if they hear Joe Biden, who says white people will be a minority in 2040, and that's a good thing. But Joe Biden's not going to be here in 2040, so he care less, right? And as a white person, to see the stuff that says, I'm not a white person, right? But the stuff that says whiteness is bad and all of this other stuff. And so when they say, I have a problem with that, and I feel like y'all coming for white people on purpose, it's like, no, you're just a racist. Like, at what point do people get to, you're just a nationalist, you just care about Americans? Yeah, maybe. Who gets to care? Our elected officials don't even care about us, right? Something has to come out of this suffrage that we're getting ready to go through. There has to be a rebirth.
In fact, do you know what I mean? I'd be like, Hitler wore those shoes. A lot of people are saying that you're like Hitler. Can you explain those shoes? Hitler wore exactly the same shoes. And you're like, I've got nothing to do with Hitler. That's how I feel about your absurd, disingenuous question.
Right. So therefore you support gun control?
What? I thought it couldn't get dumber, but it did. No, I don't support disarming law-abiding people so they can't defend themselves. So the government has a monopoly on violence? I don't think so. First of all, in my country, that's illegal, as you know. But moreover, it should be illegal in every country. A sovereign person has the right to defend himself and his family, period. And that said, I'm totally opposed to harming anyone. Are you concerned about the war in Ukraine and the countless innocents being murdered there every single day? I doubt you are. Probably Putin bad. I am. I'm a Christian. I hate violence. I hate mass shootings. I have guns at home and often on my person when I'm in the United States, I'm proud to say, because I want to defend myself and those I love against violence.
I love the men in the background, like, yeah, all right. Like, they are the bomb. Want to skip up to, but did y'all, it's insane, right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Now, he was asked another question about, and I'm going to jump over because the person, you couldn't hear them asking, but he was asked a question about conspiracy theories, right? And we know that there's a person who has a problem with people asking questions. I'll put that clip to it, but hold on. Takes a while because you're not like the person talking, you don't get to really hear them. So then he has to explain. So this is kind of weird.
Investigation, actually. And given that,
that face.
So thank you. I would say two things. For those who didn't hear it, the question was, it turns out a lot of things that have been derided as conspiracy theories actually bear, more investigation, actually. And given that, how do you feel about the prospects of a free and fair election in November in the United States? I think is that a fair submission? So I would say first to the phrase conspiracy theorist, which I'm certain has got to be a staple of your news media, given the selection of questions I just received, that it's worth knowing the provenance of that phrase. It comes directly from the Central Intelligence Agency, actually, 1964. In the aftermath of the murder of our president, John Kennedy, in November of 63, there was a very famous and entirely fake investigation into it called the Warren Commission, and people who are reading it critically noticed anomalies, like they didn't want to investigate the guy who shot the lone gunman. You're like, what? And raised questions about it. And that phrase, conspiracy theorist, entered the lexicon in my country, and it was designed to shout down and shame people who ask legitimate questions. Now, that said, there are a ton of wackos out there, and a lot of them show up at my house, and they're nice people, but they're clearly a little touched by the Great Spirit. That's all right. There are crazy people for sure, but there are also far more people who just noticed, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And that's kind of where I started. Like, well, what is that? Shut up, racist or conspiracy theorist or whatever, lone, mass shooter or whatever this chick called me. So I think the first step is recognizing that that's a control tool. Those are not the responses of someone who seeks an honest adult conversation with you, where you sort of share evidence and arrive at consensus. That's someone who believes that he can make you shut up like you would by yelling at your dog, so he can go do something awful without you interfering with him.
About the atomic bomb, right?
Yes, you could.
And you could say that we have to develop it like Oppenheimer felt. before the Nazis
I
did.
love that. How'd that work?
First of all, can we talk about Tucker Carlson's laugh? Like, like, all right. Like, I'm sorry. I've been laughing about that laugh since I started watching Tucker like 3 years ago. Also, yeah, this was the the failed statement when Tucker Carlson simply was like, "Yo, I don't think that we should have dropped the atomic bomb," and it was like, "Oh shucks, he shouldn't have said that."
How'd that work?
Well,
I love, by the way, that people on my side, I'll just admit it, on the right, have spent the last 80 years defending dropping nuclear weapons on civilians. Like, are you joking?
right.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, well, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil. Like, it's not a tough one, right? It's not a hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish sort of intellectual exercise to justify, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening?
Okay, actually.
And I don't know why Ben, look, before he goes off with his Jiminy Cricket voice, God bless him, God bless him. I don't know, but he said that was so wrong. It's like, yo, bro, like, and he was not talking about Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro took personal hit that Tucker Carlson could say, no, we shouldn't have dropped the atomic bomb. Ben Shapiro's like, you already see his face. It's like he said, Ben Shapiro is wrong for thinking X, Y. He was just speaking generally.
What would be childish is to assume that there are no other players in the world, for example, trying to develop nuclear weapons. The fact is the Nazis were trying to develop nuclear weapons. There was, in fact, a nuclear arms race that was happening at the time. Not only that, as it turns out, the Soviet Union then developed nuclear weapons. And it is mutually assured destruction and nuclear deterrence that has kept the world largely from sinking into another World War III like mass casualty morass because of the horror.
No, not the World War III that we're sinking into today. God forgive me. Like, you have to laugh, right? And somebody told me I had gallows humor. I think that I do. I need it, right? Ben says the reason why we have world peace is because of mutually assured destruction. We don't have world peace, but if we have any kind of calm in the storm, is because there's a God that's like, for me, I'm like, okay, God is still here, guys. God is always here for me. I don't think it's really mutually assured destruction necessarily. It's like, I'm just, maybe I'm a little bit more Tuckery about this. I think that mutually assured diplomacy would have been much better, right? I think that mutually assured honesty would have been a hell of a lot better. Mutually assured nationalism for all nations, obviously from the past, from before World War II, would have been a lot better. I think that mutually assured respect and trade would have been a lot better. Here we are today.